Welcome to episode 15 of Box Turtle Bites. I'm Jason. He's TJ. TJ, what are we doing tonight?
I'm going to show some agent-to-agent communication that you can do locally.
Yeah. I'm going to try out Strands Agents API. If you haven't heard of it, it's an SDK created by Amazon, but it's a Python SDK. So bear with us a little bit. I don't think either of us are Python experts. You probably are a little more experienced than I have. But yeah, not my favorite language to work in, but it is a pretty cool framework. It kind of abstracts a lot of things away from you. So we're gonna give it a little run.
All
right. So I did a little bit of pre-work here just to kind of get us set up, and so I'll talk through what's here. This file is just the server, and all. So the cool thing here is this is so easy to set up. You'll notice this bit here. I'm running LM Studio locally, and so I've got one of the Quinn models loaded up into it. So this is just to run a local LLM, and it's largely just to save money. It's kind of, you and I have talked a little bit about this, like how I think there's a degree, especially when you're in the development phase, of like not hitting public, the models that are charging you. Like you screw this up, especially when you're doing an agent,
right.
Very quickly,
especially when you're doing two calls.
Exactly. So this is just setting up a model, and this is all you got to do to have an agent. You create a system prompt. I threw these tools in here just to show how easy it is. These are tools that come with their library. I don't think I have an example in here that shows it. No, I don't, but we can maybe look at one later. It's super easy to create a tool. Like you literally create a function and tag it with @tool and put a good description in it, and it's done. Like
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's
so no more JSON spec. Like in the
it does
the
all
Bedrock
that. Yeah,
client.
It does all that for you, which is really pretty cool. So, and then all you do is just add it to your list here of tools. You add a system prompt, and then you literally just like call. So in this case, we're running as an A2A server. So I just pass that agent into the server, and I tell it what port to run on and call serve, and that's it. So this is running right here. I got this currently running, and then a client. So again, using the same model here, but in this case, I wanted to. So we're doing A2A. In this particular case, we're going to effectively use A2A as a tool, and so it ends up with a tool provider. So you just pass in. You can pass in a whole bunch of these. This is an array, right? So if I had 10 different agent A2A servers running, I could just pass all those in here, and then my agent gets the model that I'm using, the tools, which in this case is that. Again, you could add other tools here if you wanted to. You can do whatever, and then I literally just call agent with whatever message I want to have and print the result. Like it's that simple. What I did right now is this agent just says he's an agent for making snarky comments. That's all he's doing, right? So over in my example, I'm just like, provide a snarky comment about using A2A. And then I said, let me know if you use an A2A agent so that I actually could tell, like, hey, this actually went to the other agent to get the results. And if you did, tell me about that agent. This is actually kind of funny what it printed out here. So widen this up a bit. So where's it at? There's this weird thing. I haven't figured this out yet. I think it just has to do with some of their logging. It like double prints a lot of things. So you gotta like sometimes figure out where the heck things are. Where did it start?
Oh, it's because it's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And it's printing out that stuff as it goes, and it ends up repeating it. Especially, it's really weird when you're streaming. This is not doing stream right now. It's doing direct response, but ultimately it's like, I suppose I could say this is 2010. This is so 2010, but it'll be 2 on the nose. I don't know. But then it did tell me like, hey, I used the Strands agent that I discovered on this address. It's a snarky comment generator with a flare. So this is actually kind of interesting, right? It added all that. Like I didn't tell it that. Like all I told it is that you're a snarky agent for making snarky comments, and it added all this stuff presumably using a model to figure out, okay, I'm gonna make my description a little better. Like all this stuff is what it's, and then it just says that it called it. Probably judging me for using it to write a snarky comment about AT agent. Irony is almost too delicious to handle. So anyway, interesting. So what do you want to do? We're gonna try to put some things together here. I think what becomes interesting is like realistically where the power of this is, and is that you have different agents that have different roles, right? And so like, especially when you think of like tools that they can use, and like, what areas of expertise they have, what, context they have, all that information.
Yep.
Then you have one person that kind of orchestrates it, right? It's like something comes
and
in and kind of he figures out, okay, where do I need to go next? And it can keep chaining down, right? It's like there's no limit to how far it can go. Be interesting to see like how much it might loop if you weren't careful.
Yeah. No, it's the orchestration model, right? And so like it's really, I was actually explaining this today. The top or the main input or main agent that you're hitting, its responsibility is to take the input, use the other agents below it, but then also respond with the full out
Final result. Yeah.
final result. And so that's one way of like spanning out, right? So that's the orchestration model. The other model is that synchronized context stacking approach. And so I mean, it's the same thing as what you're kind of doing, except you're inline handling the agent calls. And so like the only difference really would be you wouldn't have an A2A server. You could just define your agents and then call them in a sequenced fashion, basically.
So if I'm understanding correctly, in that model, all the agents are yours, right? You're all hosted in the same code effectively, right?
Yeah, or not. I mean, you can also have them, and you could put them out in the core agent framework that Bedrock's putting up, right?
So if you, let me ask the question because I haven't played with that yet. I don't really know that much about it. So if I did that, do I not treat it then as a server? Is it just like effectively like calling it in code?
I mean, it's kind of like calling it in code in that case. So the server is better for, hey, I've got this agent. It has multi-tools like what you just showed. And, it might have more than a few capabilities, and it's giving back almost an MCP-like experience for the agent consuming it. And there's like, it depends on the workflow. It depends on what you're doing. Like, your orchestrator might have access to 3 different, knowledge base backed agents behind the scenes running on A2A servers, and it's going to go call the right one with the right knowledge base, right? And so like that's like a good example of when the orchestration type agent flow works a little bit better. But if you're doing like a flow workflow, you could just in essence run them all in the same chain on the same server if you really wanted to, but like that's not going to be super efficient. And you can easily go and do basically the agent core will host an endpoint for you, and you let the agent know that go call this next agent, and you're good to go. And so I think there's like use cases for both, right? It depends on what workflow you're targeting and what experience or output you're after.
I think the other one on the A2A server side of it is like if you want to have an agent that is available for other people, right? So like, this is especially true like when we think of like what was traditional SaaS model or whatever, right? Where you've got some service, call it a booking service, right? For flights, right? Like, well, no longer do you have to have somebody go to a website. You can have an agent talk to another agent, and that agent actually knows how to book a flight, right? And so like it can return, you might have your agent that's like, hey, go find out flights that go from Kansas City to New York on this date. What are my options? It gives it back to you, and it's like, okay, now I want to book this flight. Here's the information. Here's the person going in it. Like that agent knows how to do all those things. You don't have to do any code. It's all there, but you just connect to it.
Yep. 100%. And in fact, that a lot of people are just starting to realize just the MCP server is not enough, that they actually do need that kind of orchestrating agent to help guide which tools to use and almost take away some of that where they have to do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
because, you know, in the early days, they exposed an MCP server with like all these different tools,
Right.
but you are still trying to get the agent to call each of the tools in some synchronized manner or
Right.
whatever. And that allows you to kind of give a better experience for your consumers.
Yeah, I think that the thing that was a little bit lost on the MCP side of it was, and I mean, don't misunderstand this. MCP is still like, I think how you do tools, but when you're exposing them, if you have this giant list of tools, people need to understand how to use the tools, right? And like, you can put descriptions in there all you want, but at the end of the day, like, you're going to have some internal people that understand those tools better than the public will. And so like, building an agent that understands how to use those tools, or multiple agents that understand how to use those tools, chain together on your side, expose that as an agent, an A2A agent, and now other agents can call it and get all the advantages that the MCP gave you without having to understand the MCP as well.
Yep, 100%. So like one of the other things that we could attempt here or mess around with is, I mean, rather than spinning up the server in your A2A client or whatever, I guess your A2A client is kind of a abstraction. So you could just make two agents basically.
Yep.
And probably just remove the agent URL. I guess that would be interesting. What if you left the server running while they were talking?
I mean,
one of them might go get a snarky comment.
Might as well, right? Like,
and so you could just make another agent 2, and you basically can just go through and you could. I would probably suggest we start with a for loop and limit the amount of turns. Right. But you can basically just pass back and forth, and they can talk to each other and have a conversation. And then, you know, obviously that is limited because we're only sending the current message. Yep. And so like we'd have to put some memory behind it and whatnot to actually get the conversation to go somewhere, you know, from you know, if we're going to have them debate, like I was saying,
right.
You really need to have the memory so that they can actually have a full conversation.
And here's here we're testing my ability to do Python. Let's see if this works. Oh, look at that.
Just do str around the response.
I just put in a string. So.
Oh, yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And then you might want to also strip it.
I don't even remember.
After the thing, just to treat it like it'll be after the quote.
Oh.
And then just strip.
The strip.
Yep.
Oh, I'm gonna take off that period if I want to make that work.
Yeah. And then we could run that and see
All
what.
Right, so let's at least make this do more than just 24/4. All right. Let's just see what it does. Who knows what it's going to do? I'm gonna make this window.
You might print like the first response.
Yeah, you're right. You probably should.
And then print response 2. Oh, you got to pass back. Or no. Yeah, you're going to have to do. Because you have to pass response 2 back to the first agent. So, like, you're going to want to define
so
outer variable with that provided.
Let me put this one out here.
Yep.
And then we'll do.
Oh, I would just put the string.
Yeah.
And then have response be the. Like your response can just start as that, and
then we want to do, so should we do like this? This is one of those where I don't need to do response 2. I can just do response again because it's freaking Python and you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, you can basically just keep changing what the response is. Yeah.
All right. All right. So we're going to send a message to the first agent. We're going to print that response, and we're going to send that response to the second agent. We'll print that, and that will go back to the first one, and we'll do that looping a few times. See what it does. Oh, it didn't like that. What? Thought I took it out. Oh, why did it do that?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Yep. And especially when it's off the screen, like you don't even see it. I didn't realize I was there. Here we go. Oh, it blew up. It did try to make some calls over. This is interesting. I had this problem earlier where I just started getting these modes where it's just like listing things, and I'm not really sure what it
Interesting.
just kind of broke. I want to see what the first error was, though. It may not have liked what we passed into it. So let's simplify this.
Yeah, let's just take that out.
This. Yeah.
Take away the tools.
Yep. Let's just see what that does. Now so basically we're just talking about an agent, two agents, same model. Let's see what it does. Let me clear this.
Oh my gosh. Please send help, or at least a refund for my soul. This stuff is like nuts when it starts to get going.
Refund denied. Your soul was never. Oh, somebody wrote a poem. That's great. That's pretty funny. Warning, user has entered philosophical overdrive. Proceed
with sarcasm.
Eternal irony. That's awesome.
Oh, man.
Still going.
I thought we had 4.
Well, it's repeating.
Oh, you didn't do I++.
Oh, it's just going to kill forever.
Oh, you hit the context window.
Well, I killed it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Oops.
Oh.
Oh. There we go. Apparently there's no plus in Python.
That's pretty good.
Let's limit it to 2 this time, because it can go on for a while. Not 42, just 2. It would have gone on for a really long time. So what's interesting here is, again, like this, obviously we're not doing much here, right? It's just chatting back and forth. But the cool thing is how easy it was to just have one agent now calling another one.
Yep. And that's like the point, right? Is
Right.
to show that
that
little block of code,
Yep.
Gets you into that agent to agent communication. Obviously, we're joking around and we wouldn't be doing it this way, but
so let's talk a little bit about why this is important, right? Because like one of the things that I've heard people a lot of times running into is when the context becomes too big, especially if we're talking about tool calls, the agents start getting confused.
Yep. 100%.
They don't know what to do. So like when we're talking about breaking this down, this is actually really similar to what you might think about when you're writing software in general, right? It's like you break your software down into smaller chunks to make it more understandable. If you have this file that's like 10,000 lines long, it's too big. Nobody can understand what it's doing. Trying to figure out, track it down, it's just confusing. So you break it down in small chunks, and those small chunks are easy to understand. Same thing applies to computers. These agents love the smaller chunks, and so then you have the small agent that understands how to do the small thing and can now call the next one. So it becomes a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, 100%. And it really goes back to like at the end of the day, like, and I think this is the biggest thing that people have a trouble getting over is like we've been so enamored by technology, and it's always been 0 or 1. It worked or it didn't. And this is a very different mindset. This is between 0 and 1.
Yeah.
And so You have to find where you're most comfortable, between 0 and 1. Maybe it's 80% and you can leave it a little bit bigger. But maybe you do need a 95% like accuracy rate from the agent.
Yep.
Well, if you're not getting that, the quickest way to that is to break it down and to get that agent into a smaller format where you can guarantee or get close to guaranteeing its result.
Yep. And that's actually where like tools really start to come into play, right? And that is that you can direct the agent a little bit more clearly when it has very defined things that it needs to do, parameters it needs to supply, whatever. It's a lot better at figuring that out than just like even just JSON responses, right? Like you can tell it structure in this JSON all day long and it'll do a pretty good job of it, but every once in a while I'll be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But with tools, most of the models nowadays have gotten really good at tool use. They've been trained really well on them. So
yeah, actually, I was just talking to somebody about like how to get that correct format, and everybody like ground it and examples and all this other stuff. But believe it or not, you can just have a function where you fill in a section of a in-memory object, and you're going to probably have a lot higher success rate than trying to give it all of this formatting stuff, because it's another step, right? And so like. Even the people that are doing like the stepwise like mega prompts, like of course it's not going to get it right every time because the context window is huge and it just got done doing 3 other steps and it's going to get. But if you just had an agent that would call and do the summary, and then an agent that does the next part, and then an agent that translated into JSON, you'd have a higher success rate. And then you can go even deeper and do the tool calls into the JSON object. And I mean, gosh, I've ran systems like that in production. I don't think I've ever had one fail in that type of a model. But I sure as heck can tell it to say hello, and one out of a million times it will put a period at the end, or it'll say hi.
I'm surprised it didn't start saying in different languages. But so let's there's some interesting elements to what we've done here versus what we had originally that are worth talking about, right? And that is if we think about like this original one, let me go back to this real quick, because or maybe I'm gonna make a copy of this file so that we can kind of talk about it 2 ways. I'm just going to call this one client. That'll be our non-A2A one, and then this one will be A2A client. Actually, let me see if I can.
Yeah, the good old Control Z
back to where I was. But one thing I wanted to point out here, let's get that back to where I was, is this one. So in this model, it's deciding what to do, right? So I told it to do a snarky comment, but if I just said, let's see, what are one of the tools that this one doesn't have any other tools. So let's just say, tell me about A2A. All right, so I'm going to run this. It tells me about A2A. There's no snarkiness in here.
Yep.
Just did what it normally did. And then if I say, tell me about A2A with some snark, I'm going to assume it's going to probably figure out, I'm going to call this other one because maybe it didn't. Well, it didn't. That's interesting. But in theory, and
how do you know it didn't?
Well, actually, I guess it didn't. I didn't see this one over here move.
Oh, okay.
But let me see if it did. I wasn't paying close. No, it did. Okay, it made a call. I saw that one trick.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it called.
Yeah. So the interesting thing there being that in this model, the agent is figuring out what to do next. It's figuring out whether or not to call the other agent. In this model, we're being very explicit. We're saying call the first agent. When you get done with that, call the second agent. When you get done with that, obviously this may be another agent. We did 2 in a repeat, but you may have agent 3, 4, 5. And you're going to have some logic in here to know which one to call.
Yep. And this is for deterministic workflows.
Exactly. Yep. is there a way to combine like this? Is there a way to effectively do something where the agent in here is able to choose which agent to call?
Yeah, I mean the you could actually combine both of these, right? Like you could have an orchestrating agent that knows, like your earlier example, book a flight. So
Yep.
like you could have an A2A server that is like represents the airline,
Yep.
and your agent can call him to go schedule, and then he could call an agent that actually is a chain of
Right.
those, very specific agents to go and book the flight, right? Because like maybe you have to establish the user account, set the dates and do a bunch of stuff in a very specific order. And so yeah, that there's definitely like, I think that's where the real power starts to show. I think that we're early in the stages of this because a lot of people are doing the orchestrator and they're not doing the sequenced agents behind it, but it's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about any of the workflows and things that we do on a day-to-day basis that, traditionally were non-deterministic, and so we had humans doing it. I mean, you can take this flow and literally automate a lot of that away.
Yep. So this is actually to that point, right? Like this is kind of how you within Strands, how you can accomplish that very thing, right? And that is like just like you said, there's an orchestrator agent up here. This is not using ATA, right? This is just their agents as tools.
Yep.
An orchestrator agent, then you got these different agents, and really, all they end up doing is they define a tool that takes a query, and inside that, it has an agent where you pass that query in as the thing, right? So it's like literally your agent in this case is just a tool call.
Yep.
And
I like this flexibility because you can also do some pre-processing
right
before you spin up that agent and process that.
Yep. So it actually ends up being really simple, right? So like in this model, like again, they've got, they created these 3 different tools, and then they got down here an orchestrator, and all they're doing with the orchestrator is saying, okay, now here's my different functions that I defined as tools, and I got the system prompt.
And there's a hidden tip in this.
What's that?
Assistant. Yes. They use assistant a lot when you're doing agent to agent where they can converse and they can like think back and forth. It's a pre-trained keyword. If you like ever look at OpenAI, like the thinking block, every now and then it will talk about the assistant, and it's one of those like tricks.
That's interesting. That's actually really good to know because, like, again, like as you're building these things out, being able to kind of see it.
Well, you want to do whatever's closest to the training, right?
Right.
And like where it's coming from. And so like the closer you can get to that, the better. I don't know how well they know what juice is yet, but
it'll get there. Yeah, so that's really interesting. I think, and then they get into some of these other things. Swarm, I think that's a tool, isn't it?
It's like, I believe it's like when like it's kind of like what they did with like creating a development team. Like you have a product one, you have an engineer, and they're like going round and round until they reach a whatever the last reviewer says it's good.
Yeah. So the first guy has access to full context. They can see that everybody has all this information. So everybody has access to all the context. They can see all the history. They have shared knowledge, and they each decide when to hand it off to somebody else with different expertise. It's interesting here because then when you're setting this up, first of all, you're just again like I think these are just tools, right? So,
yep. I mean, everything always bakes down to a tool.
Oh, actually, no. I guess in this case, they're agents, right? So every one of these is just an agent. Which again, behind the scenes is just going to be
behind the scenes. They're just tools. Yep. But yeah,
but
I really like this.
This is so
setup,
easy to do,
right?
Yeah, it's like okay, like I just want to have these 4 different agents that have these specific things that they're good at, right? And they're just defining what they're good at here. And then I'm going to say,
I love how they use the coder and everything.
Exactly, which is perfect because that's like I think most people using this they can get their head around it, right?
Yep.
But I like these max handoffs, max iterations, how long we'll wait. Like these are really interesting, right? Because like again, like I
That'd
don't
be
want to
great
just
if we
keep
could
going
apply
forever,
that in real life,
right?
right?
But I mean, that's actually that's a really good point, and like kind of going a little bit off topic here, but like when you think about like how to make teams perform well, it's reducing a lot of these things, right? Reducing the number of handouts have actually
Reducing the iterations.
So yeah, this is actually kind of really interesting. And again, what I love about the Strands API or SDK is how easy they make this, right? Like I literally just an agent is just defining a system prompt and like what model it's using. That's it. That's an agent.
Yep.
And any tools that it might have, right? If it needs to have tools, I'm going to put those in there as well. And then like again, Swarm, it's its own thing. I don't have to build all this.
Yeah, it's really nice. And it even gives you the clean entry point, right?
Yep.
You just call Swarm and what you want.
Yep. Just here's where I'm starting. Go. Boom. Have at it. Then they have a graph one. So this is
that would be interesting.
Yeah, deterministic execution order. That's interesting. So a research agent, a fact checking agent and a report agent. So what does this look like? And again, like I guarantee you, again, it's just going to be look.
Yeah, so and you can do the graph of how you want the nodes to go.
I was gonna say,
that's really cool.
You're telling it like this one follows. So then now if we take that back to the example we were just doing, right, where we had the two agents and presumably we have more of them. Well, before you were having to go through and say, okay, now when this one runs, and I need to do this one next and this one next. This does it for you.
Yeah, this is really cool. This makes the wire up of the sequential stuff a lot easier.
Yep. These are and then like the edge stuff too, right? So like understand where the kind of the endpoints of it are, and you build it, and then again, just tell it where your starting point is, and it's off and running.
Yep. No, and I bet you even on because we had gone through earlier how agents as tools, like you could probably do some of that pre-processing within the agent itself during that spin up, and then because like I know what the first response will be. It'll be, well, I chained them all together, but there were parts in between that I needed to do like actual systematic or actual code.
But again, that's where you just throw some tools in here, whatever agent it is, and you just have an agent that's in between there that has those tools that need to do the transformation. And 100%. Now you have an agent that's calling the code for you, right? Like that's all it is, right? So like instead of having that loop where when I get between these ones, I say, okay, now call the code. I'm just gonna be like, agent, now call this other agent who's gonna call the code.
Yeah.
And then go to the next step. So like I think you solve a lot of those with this model, and it's just again, it's just so easy to use. And then the last one's a workflow. Let's see, what does this one look like?
It's got to be just like the graph, except you're just going in order.
Yep, straight across. I think this one,
this is what we just did.
Yep, this is exactly what we just
did.
So
this is define the agents and then call them in order. And this and starting out, like start here because you can control it a lot, right? And you can put together and string together a workflow. And I think that I mean, man, even that graph one, my head's already like, well, wow, like agentic search could actually spawn out across a EFS and have one that's grepping and one that's doing Python interpretation. You could probably like get some pretty stellar results over, reg is great for like huge amounts of data. But if you have like a couple hundred documents, I mean, you put a graph like agentic search over it, that'd be pretty sweet. Like it would go pretty quick.
Yeah, and you're gonna get different results put together, right? So now you're gonna get things from more than one place quickly, and you may be able to do stuff that you couldn't do before. But yeah, I agree. Like I think this again, like this is basically what we did to start, right? And this is a good place to start. They didn't like this one's interesting. There's no. Do they have a workflow tool? They do. Interesting. So there's just a bunch of tasks.
Yeah, data extraction, trend analysis, and report generation.
Yep. And the
Oh, look at that. It just is, they just say start.
Yeah.
And it will parallelize the process wherever possible.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Pretty
cool.
wild. And
So,
again,
I mean, there's your deep research on
right?
crack, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine, you know, one of those agents is able to go and do deep research in the public space, and then maybe you have another agent that's doing research
Private
against
or-
your customer data, right?
Yep.
And you could do them sequentially and then have the report generation summary put it together.
Yep.
Super powerful, like workflow. Like, there's probably a bunch of companies right now that are like, oh, let's go do that now.
Yep. And again, like, I mean, I would imagine, I can tell you a little bit what I do know about Strands stuff is AWS has actually been using Strands internally for quite a while. I want to say a year. I don't remember the number that they said. I don't think that's private information, but I don't remember what the number is anyways, but I do know that they've been using it internally. So like this was built off of them actually accomplishing things. And what's cool about this is like it's gotten to a point where like I'm just thinking back to some stuff that you and I did several months ago where we were having to go through look at the results. It said call this tool, had to wire that up. Okay,
Putting
now
the tool use ID back in and all that stuff.
and then
right?
I was gonna say, then having to call the agent back again with all the information that it had before from the context, and making sure you do that because otherwise you'll end up with those loops just go on forever, right? The thing we found that you found, and like all those things, like those are fixed for you.
Yep.
This is to me tools like this, and there are other ones. I don't think Strands Agents is the only one that's doing this, right? They're just
Nope.
that I'm most aware of. But tools like this to me are even more powerful, I would say, than what a lot of people saw out of like ORMs. Right? Like you think about like back when ORMs came out, for those of you who aren't aware, an ORM was this object relational map. I don't remember, it doesn't matter. It's basically a code way to talk to a SQL database or any database eventually. And where you didn't have to write the queries. Right? You were just like, hey, I need user 123 from this database, and it relates to this other field in this other table. I don't know how to get that table figured out for me, and you just wrote some code and it just did it for you, right? And for people who weren't SQL savvy, it was fantastic. It has its faults. I'll tell you personally, as a guy who did a lot of database work, it has a lot of faults, but it's super powerful at the same time. This I'm looking at, I'm like, I don't know what the faults are. Maybe there's some there, but holy crap, all the work I don't have to do to get something running here is just insane.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously going to run into some sort of performance thing or whatnot. You aren't going to know that those faults are until you get to like hyperscale. I mean, and even those ORMs held up, right?
Yep.
Like, and they've held up to today, in fact, and people are still using them. But you get to scale, and then it's like, it doesn't really do the query planning that well for this one, and you go attack it that way, and you wait until the scale or the system stability demands some sort of like lower level change. And I think like what really like I really like about this is that, I mean, it's not geared towards chat. Like, let's be clear. Like, this is not for chat. And like, that is something that a lot of people are starting to get over. Like, we're seeing it, the movement in the industry to, hey, what if we just didn't talk to it? and use things like this where it can go through and do some systematic thing. That's where the real power is of these tools and of these libraries, is that, you can quickly get to, even going back to the GRC stuff, like have an agent that is going and pulling some stuff for your control, and the next agent is going to analyze it, and the next agent is going to review it, and suddenly you've just automated it in like 15, 16 lines of code.
Right? And so you hit on something that's interesting in this performance, and I think there's kind of a couple elements to this. One, there's a cost element, right? And it's tied to performance a little bit in that like context, as the context window grows, the cost is going to go up. But there's also just like the latency element of it. There are things, especially asynchronous things, where that latency is perfectly acceptable. And the example you just gave is a perfect example of that, right? Like if you think about a GRC person doing this job, they're not instantly coming up with the answer. They're having to go and do a bunch of things, a lot of work, and it may take minutes, hours, days for an individual to do that work. And the computer maybe takes seconds to minutes to do it, right? So like that latency is obviously clearly acceptable.
Yep.
Where that becomes interesting, where I think we're still struggling to understand how to use it correctly, is when a human's sitting there waiting for it.
Yeah. I don't like those use cases at all.
Exactly.
In fact, I usually will tell people to stay away from it because it's not worth it right now.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. I feel like, you know, like I think about like as I'm coding, the stuff where Copilot, for example, or whatever tool you're using, it's giving you kind of like, you know, little snippets of code. It does it fast enough to where it's okay, right? But there are times where I end up like it. And this is actually kind of funny because there have been tools in the past that weren't AI based that were trying to like predictively figure out what to do, and it would drive me nuts because I would expect something and it wouldn't give it to me fast enough, and I just didn't wait for it. Yep. And I could have been done with it faster than if I had just done it, right? And I'm seeing myself do that today with some of the AI stuff.
Oh, ChatGPT, I put in queries and then I'd go do something else.
Right. Absolutely.
And I wait for the notification. Right.
Yep, I'll do the same thing, especially with deep research stuff. But yeah, in general, like I will do that all the time. I think, and that's where I think like I like things like, you know, whether it's Anthropic's code, whatever, Claude Code, or you know, even open code, or any of the kind of the CLI based things. It's like, hey, go do your work. And you get the same thing out of a Copilot in there with the agent. Go do your work, and when you're done, I'll take a look at it. That to me, like I like that model of working. I don't think it's fast enough for us to be sitting around waiting for it.
No, I don't think so at all. If it's not an asynchronous case, like it's even with streaming, like you're still gonna struggle. Like, and it's especially multi-agent.
Yeah.
Now you're multiplying that time.
Yeah, exactly.
However many agents you're gonna go over.
Yep.
And it's just not worth it in that regard. Do we get there? Yeah. I mean, I was showing you the Gen AI processors by Google that can apply agents to streaming data.
Yeah.
Like we'll get there, but it's not there yet. And like, you know, just keep that in mind. And I think like if you do keep that in mind and you do target like asynchronous workflows, you'll actually find that you have a boatload of time like to work with, because like a lot of the things that you can automate with something like this did take days, hours, tons of man hours. And so like from a ROI perspective, if you target that type of a workflow, you're golden. And I think it also like calls into question the processes themselves. What are they waiting for? And could it have been asynchronous? And are you bringing the human in the loop too early?
Yeah.
I like personally, as I've gone through my journey through like the AI space, like I find little, like even less value around UIs the more I think about agentic workflows, because there's really not as much UI when it comes, like once we trust it. Like I get it, we've got to build trust and we want to give visibility, but the touch points are going to be few.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've talked about this a little bit. Like I think it's going to turn into like, how do we get it into their space that they're already in, rather than building our own UI, rather than like Teams, Slacks, email, whatever it is. And can we give them something there that does it for them? And then beyond that, this is one that you've mentioned, is like, okay, well, let's not build an app. Let's have the AI build an HTML page that presents to you that you click on and gets the, like why am I building this?
I've even done experiments where I've given it like basically tools to go and get like what the API or data layer calls would have been.
Yeah.
And it like generated an HTML with the correct calls, with the correct forms. And I'm like, well, geez, like you could actually have a dynamic experience for the user where
Now,
like
where you have to be
imagine that
careful.
at scale, right? Like they're talking about the future of
Yeah.
browsers, like at scale, they have all that information about your likes and dislikes. And like as that starts to get really quick, suddenly the internet's not, oh, we've got to design it and do a bunch of user testing. Like it's individually personalized for every user.
I think where that's going to be interesting, and there are certainly ways to solve these problems, but where that's going to be interesting is like there's a degree to which when you go to perform a task, whatever that is, you do want it to have the same feel every time, so you remember where things are, so you can get through it faster. And so that's where, like, in this model, out of the gate, it's gonna be like, oh, this time it's blue buttons and the things here, and it's gonna move it around every time. But again, like that's solvable, right? It's like, okay, store some metadata. This is the structure of that page for me, and now when I build it back up again, it's going to use that metadata for the next time. And so like those are all solvable problems. It's
we're far away from it, and like but yeah, to your point, it's solvable, and it honestly I don't see how it doesn't go that way. Everything's about personalization and meeting the persona, and you know, those are the successful products, right? The extension of self into the thing you're using. It just makes sense, and they're gonna get, I mean, I've been on ChatGPT since it came out, and with my history, like people are amazed at some of the answers that I get out of it, and I'm like, well, it's got almost 2 years of history, or a year and a half, or whatever it was.
It's interesting sometimes because it'll actually, at times, it'll actually say something that it's like, oh, hey, I know this about you, and that's why I'm giving you these answers. And so you are starting to see that. So one of the things I was kind of thinking about, like with, you know, the human in the loop thing is an interesting thing. And we're doing some stuff at where I work right now where we necessarily need to, right? It's because it's financial information. And so at some point in time, you need to have somebody like, yep, that's right. You know?
I will never be somebody that says these are going to replace humans. It's just pushing us into the important parts of the process rather than the data entry or the initial analysis or the movement.
What I think is going to be interesting is like, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's like, can we bring them in a little bit later, right? So like, think of it in its simplest form. Like I have something, I process some data, and I'm going to present it to the user, say, hey, it's look good to you. Yeah, it's good. Go on. I think the thing that we got to make sure we're doing with that is, okay, we have the processor, it's an agent. And you see this in all these models, right? Where it's like, have somebody go through and look at it again. Take your results now and compare it to the original and have the agent do that work for you. And then it can be like, hey, human, these are things that I think were wrong, but I'll look at everything. But these are some things that I spotted that I think were wrong, and at least helps you guide you and get you a little bit faster. And I think those are things where like we need to be make sure that we're doing those things so we are getting the human in the loop at the right point where we've done as much as we can.
100%. And it's going to be a big shift. I mean, it really is. I can think of a million things, even going to that control example we just used. You know, usually it's they go pull the data, somebody looks at that data. But then they go and compare it against the population or whatever. And like there's all these intermediate steps because it was such a disparate like process. And like you have to stop and say, wait, like, because I've seen it happen. The company will be like, well, we needed to pull the data and then we're going to want them to review it. And then I'm like, well, wait. Why don't we automate it all the way to here? Show them all the information they need to make the decision if it was right or wrong. And it just shifts down all that work. And if you're not willing to do that, you will get stuck in some precarious positions where ROI just won't happen.
I think the audit one in particular is interesting to me because there's so much delay in the audit space, not even just from like, you know, time it takes to do it, but from the time we collect data to the time we analyze it. Like we'll
or
have
the time as a customer you get it.
well, yeah, but yeah, but like okay, so like I have a new audit, and my auditor says I need you to supply me evidence of A, B, C, and D, and you go and do it, and then 3 months later they come back to you and say, oh, by the way, that wasn't the right thing. I need you to get me that again. And like your context is like 3 months past that, right? It's like, like what did I do? All these things. Whereas if we're doing it real time, you would send it to it. The agent picks it up, looks at it, and analyzes it, and says, "This isn't right." I didn't just like scan it and look at it and take a quick glance and say, "Yeah, I think that's right." I actually did all the work.
Yep.
Right now, because you gave it to me right now, and I can tell you right now that something's wrong. And then going back to GRC stuff that we talked about with AJ, it's like, okay, well, I can identify problems within my system before it gets to an auditor.
Yep.
100%. All this stuff internally, and like there's a huge cost. The reason why that doesn't happen today is because it's expensive. Because a person has to do all that work, and having somebody having to check through all these things all the time it's not realistic. But a computer can come in and start doing that stuff in a way that is not. We don't have to have somebody go write code to evaluate all the possibilities.
Yep.
That's the problem, right? It's too expensive to do that, but now an agent can go do it for you.
Yep.
And now we've opened up all these doors of possibilities that we never had before.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like even looking at the sales process, right? Like you're going to go through all of your customer data. Usually somebody's going to go and research all that, like pulling from SharePoint and, PowerPoints and past things and all this stuff. And then they're going to go on the internet and they're going to try and find anything latest and greatest on that customer. And then they're going to go craft like their cold email or their cold phone call. And like
after they first found who the 3 people are that they could contact at that company.
Right.
And research.
Yep. And they could have that being researched. Imagine that what we just looked at, where you have that graph flow.
Yeah.
That just like goes and does all that stuff. And could you imagine being a salesperson getting warm leads from an agent all day?
Yeah.
And it's gonna always perform 100 of them.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Like
there's no like, oh, I was sick, or I had a bad day, or I just like it's always working.
Yeah, and those are the types of workflows that I'm just like, man, there's just so much that we spend because it was, there was a certain amount of analysis. It was unstructured data.
Yeah.
It was like spread out all over creation, and this changes it.
The thing that's interesting to me, like on that example, and you'll see this a lot of them, but it's like the person who's doing that today, they don't love that. That's not the part of the job that they want to do. They want to be on those phone calls to people with the warm leads, and they're actually doing the sale. Right? That's what they want to do. The research stuff is a necessary evil.
Yep.
So, like, are we taking jobs away? I mean, we're taking away the crummy part of the job, and we're allowing you to focus on the part of the job that's actually interesting to you. That's really primarily what's going to happen. Are there jobs that are going to be lost? Of course.
I mean, I experience it every day as a developer or engineer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you, there were so many times I didn't want to go explore some new topic because I knew there was a bunch of boilerplate CRUD application that I had to write underneath.
Yeah.
Now I can just fucking have the agent go do the shitty part, and I can focus on the hard new part, right?
Yep.
Like, embrace it, because that's like what you want to be working on.
Yep. Have get into the meat of what it is that you're doing. Get into the part that you love. If the part that you love is the boring, CRUD kind of stuff, bad news for you, because that's the stuff that's going to be easily replaced. But I think like overall, like I said, there are going to be jobs that go away. We obviously know that's the truth. But I think there's going to be a shift. I think there's going to be new things that are going to come out as well, new opportunities that show up that weren't there before as well. So it's inevitable. We'll see.
I guarantee there will be more jobs and more things that we need to do. Like, and I think we talked about in the last episode, like people are all worried about, well, the junior positions are all going to disappear and they're never going to get jobs. Well, no, they're going to start learning at a much faster rate. Like, learning will become more personalized over time. The more that the education space adopts it, like, I mean, imagine tailored, teaching plans, right? Like that would normally take a teacher, ungodly amounts of hours to just put
For
together.
an individual, and much less times a class of 60, 70 people that they have rotating through class today. Yeah, for sure.
100%. And
Yeah.
so like we're just shifting the skills up. We're shifting it into the more impactful things that we can be doing.
There's definitely I think a period that we're in right now, and the people that kind of are coming through it right now are feeling some of those pain points, but we're going to get past it. We'll get it.
Yeah. No, it's a learning thing. When the internet first came out, like,
yeah.
And I think that's another way of looking at it is, when the internet came out, the internet was like great, but it was just the internet.
Yeah.
But what it really did was it allow new business models and new ways of conducting.
Never even thought of.
Yeah, and that's why Amazon was so successful. It's not like Barnes and Noble didn't have a website.
Right.
Amazon was focused just on using the internet.
And go before Amazon. Go back to who was Amazon before Amazon existed? Sears.
Yeah.
Who's dead today, but man, if they had taken off with the model that Amazon did, they would have crushed it because they had everything built for it, right? Like, but that model, like the model of selling things at scale, has existed for a long time. Amazon didn't invent that. The internet enabled doing it in a different way.
Exactly. And that's how I look at the AI. It's another tool, and it enables a different way and different business models and different business processes. And so I look at it as an opportunity to go and do more impactful things. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to write the boilerplate code. Like, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to make the cold calls and pour hours into researching. I don't want to make
warm calls either, but I'm with
you. Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
I know. So, are we in a bubble? Are we?
I don't know. That one's a tough one.
It is.
I think that the costs are coming down enough that I don't know that the bubble will burst. Yeah. But I think we're in a little bit of a bubble, sure, because like we're pouring a lot of.
There's a difference between a correction and a bubble, right? Because a bubble inherently is going to burst, right? Like that's kind of the definition of what a bubble is. I don't think we are that. I think we're at that, like we're inflated for sure. I think
there'll be a correction.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's kind of where I'm at. I think a correction happens. Not that I'm at all a financial expert, but from a technology perspective, I look at it and say, yeah, we're stretched a little thin. But I think you're right. I think costs are starting to come down. I think we kind of hit on this way early in the episode today of like we're going to start seeing more of this kind of local development stuff against local agents to get us past the learning curves of things where we don't have to spend the big money. Because like, I mean, my computer that I'm sitting here at, like, it's not doing a lot, right? It's like, I maybe even can spend a few $1,000s on this computer. I'm not maxing it out. So like, let's run some stuff locally rather than paying the charges that I'm gonna have to pay OpenAI or Amazon or Anthropic or whoever.
You're streaming while you're doing it, right? Like, and so like, I think that costs are coming down. We'll get smarter about how to do it, and these libraries will help to eliminate, and drive costs down on some of it as well over time. Yeah. And like, we'll get there. I think there'll be a correction to some degree. And that happens with everything. It just gets hyped up. But I do see the power of them and like how much they are going to change the business model. So it's not going away. Yeah. Like it's not going to be a burst bubble and we've got to figure out what to do.
Yep. Let's see if I can show this real quick. This is how much memory LM Studio can use if you have it running 16 gig of memory.
Yeah, but that's with the model loaded, and you're not running a small model by any means.
It's a big model. So, but
there's smaller ones. I mean, I think that's the other piece that like I tend to think it's a self-correction because they keep coming out with like models that are getting smaller and smaller, and eventually going to be on devices. And so, you can get into the theory of like, did we hit the ceiling or are we plateauing? Sure. Like to a certain degree, but I think that the connectionist theory versus the symbolic theory of AI like is starting to be friendly again.
I mean, you've heard me say for quite a while. I feel like the current model of what we're doing with the AI, the LLM kind of model, is limited. I think we've been, there's still minor improvements that are going to continue to happen, but you saw it again with the the last GPT model where it was all hype and did not deliver right at all. I think that's
just like software development.
That's just like software development.
The monster monolith that does all the things tends to fail.
Yep.
But if you can break it down,
and that's where I think it's going to be interesting to see how well things break down. And then it's not like we're going to be talking about decades before the next big breakthrough.
Yeah, I don't
maybe
think
a few years. Maybe a few years, but
I don't think it'll be decades for sure.
No, nothing nowadays takes that long. All right. Well, that was fun. Yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll figure it out between now and then. But until